Your Excellency, if I may start with you, what are the key elements of Saudi Arabia's reform agenda? And how have these initiatives positioned the kingdom as a leading financial hub in the context of global economy?
Well, thank you very much, Sep, and thanks to Bloomberg for hosting this early morning session. I'm glad we have so many people up early.
Thank the audience for getting up.
And thank you, Jenny, for not only joining me today in this session, but for your belief in the kingdom. Franklin Templeton has been a pillar in our financial markets, and Jenny personally has not only been focused on the financial market, Vision 2030, and the Saudi economy, but she has also been leading in the talent development, especially passionate about women participation, which is something we're extremely proud of, the contribution of our young females in our financial markets. So you ask about reforms and regulations, Seb. Vision 2030, of course, is underpinned by diversification of the economy, building sectors that the kingdom has not been known for. I think everybody knows that the kingdom has been over many decades known as a globally leading energy economy, oil and gas in particular, and an economy where we've been comfortable being cash surplus, capital exporting economy. The vision has turned that upside down by putting diversification, building sectors that have not been part of the Saudi economy over the last few decades at the forefront. The other pillar of Vision 2030, of course, is transparency and inclusion of financial markets to provide capital to these growing sectors and to ensure that all the elements of capital markets are existing in terms of the foundational bedrock of any thriving global economy. So transparency, stability, predictability of regulations was key in Vision 2030. As a result, we have introduced and been praised for having best-in-class regulation, the civil transactions law, PPP law. We just introduced an overarching investment law in the kingdom last year, which will go into effect next month. And on top of this, of course, is the financial sector. So the financial sector a few years ago was a local capital markets, Tadawul, that was serving a limited number of companies. And since 2015, and the announcement by His Royal Highness, the Crown Prince, that we're going to grow our capital markets, diversify it, and bring all other sectors of the economy to play a leading part in the exchange, as well as different asset classes. We have seen the growth of the financial sector by an order of magnitude. Of course, that has been underpinned by inclusion. So we have worked with all of the global indices, MSCI, FTSE, S&P, global emerging markets, which have included Saudi Arabia. We have reached 4% of MSCI as an example. Different asset classes have been introduced, including credit and debt instruments, not just equities where it used to be. And of course, the listing of Saudi Aramco a few years ago has leapfrogged the capital markets of Saudi Arabia from 25 globally to being a top 10. Having said this, I think we're still in the beginning, and one reason we're having this session and other sessions here in Davos and elsewhere is to encourage other people to follow on the footsteps of many global players who have been actively participating in the Saudi market today. Foreign ownership in the Saudi exchange has reached 100 billion. That's 25x of what it used to be 5 years ago, and people like Franklin Templeton and Jenny will speak to them about what they're seeing in terms of the governance, the administrative role that the CMA plays in the Tadawul exchange.
Thank you. And double-clicking on the financial sector, Jenny, how would you evaluate the transformation?
Well, so first of all, I think one of the things that I've found unique, and we've been in the region for about 27 years, but is this mentality of generations, right? It's thinking about generations. And so this view of oil won't last forever, and so we need to be deliberate with a plan to diversify the economy. And obviously that's what 2030 is about. I'm not sure there's another place in the world where people, it's almost like that family kind of feel and how you think about it. And so when you build out that plan, and obviously 2030 is the plan, and I remember speaking to a very high U.S. government official who talked about when they first heard about it, they were like, yeah, right, you're going to get 33% of the women in the workforce, or, you know, by 2035 or 2030. And they, by the way, have already achieved that. It has been astonishing. And I brought my executive committee to Riyadh in 2023, and most of them are global investors, but hadn't been to the kingdom since prior to COVID, so usually like 2019, 2018. They were astonished. Their comment was, I've never seen a country change so quickly culturally, as far as just opening up. And so that brings investment opportunity. We decided to open an office. We worked, and you know, what surprised us, one thing was the actual talent that we were there already, who had our CEO is a woman, and just the capability and the talent. And so for us, you know, investors want to invest where there's opportunity and growth. And if you look at, as His Excellency mentioned, you know, they're 4% of the MSCI Emerging Market Index. That's up from 2.7% in 2019. The ability to move over 1% in an index like that when your competitors are also, you know, the other folks are moving, is pretty astonishing. And the view is it'll be within 5 years, 6% of that. And so that means that there are investment opportunities. And so we looked at it as Franklin Templeton as a global investor and said, we need to be here. We need to be participating in this. And we were, the regulators were extremely accessible. You know, they were learning in parts of that, and so they were open to saying, how can we be better at some of this? There were some things that were a little bit cumbersome, but they were committed to you know, making it streamlined to be able to attract capital. And so, you know, you look at it today with over 50% of the GDP in non-oil businesses. It's tourism, entertainment, technology, fintech. That's opportunity for investors. So that's what was attractive to us.
Absolutely. And Jenny, it was a big year for Franklin Templeton last year. You opened an office in Riyadh, and you launched products like Franklin Saudi Bond Fund. And what is driving the interest?
Well, again, anywhere where there's growth, you know, I always say capital goes where capital is treated well. So one is you have to have growth opportunities, right? And that means transparency, good legal framework, and that's what we're finding, right? And so for us, I think you know, if you looked at like the GCC bond index, I think Saudi used to be 18%. They're not 26%. Well, why is that? It's because it's good investment opportunities. So we looked at that and said, look, the rest of the world is going to want to participate in this vision of investment. And so being able to provide, we did an ETF that's a Saudi Arabia equity ETF, and then also a bond fund, so that global investors can participate in the growth. And so that was, you know, that's what our clients want.
Excellent. Your Excellency, you've launched the National Investment Strategy, and just wondering, how has that created immediate opportunities for investors?
Well, in the base economy, I mean, Saudi Arabia is doing quite well. Our GDP, despite fluctuations in the oil market, the constant has been this very healthy growth of the non-oil economy, 4 to 5% year in, year out, no matter what's happening globally. And that, I think, is based on what Jenny said, is we had many sectors in Saudi Arabia that had been underdeveloped, and quite frankly, some of them are not even open to private sector. Healthcare was all government. Tourism was simply religious tourism to Mecca and Medina over the past many decades. So as Vision 2030 opened all of these sectors with great global interest by companies that wanted to invest in the base economy, we've seen this flow of FDI as well as local investors who had been exporting capital, as I mentioned in the beginning, starting to deploy capital in the economy. When we did Vision 2030 in 21, we had estimated that by 2030 we would deploy the equivalent of $3.3 trillion in the base economy, and of course we were estimating and still expect the financial markets to contribute significantly because we want it to be a private sector-led economy in Saudi Arabia. I'm glad to report as we start 25 that although many people thought you must be crazy, you're not going to be able to get that much capital formation in an economy that is not primed and ready to grow these nascent sectors. I have to say that despite the government slowing down government spending, because we want the private sector to be really the driver of economic growth, and the PIF, important and strong as it is, has been doing less than 15-20% of the investing. But we have exceeded our targets for capital formation up to now. A significant amount of that 3.3 capital has already been deployed in the base economy. That, of course, requires that the sectors themselves are reformed and regulated and opened up, and that investors see that and invest. That has resulted also in many companies being listed in the capital markets. We have been averaging 40 to 50 IPOs within Tadawul. We started 4 or 5 years ago, a small cap market, Numo, and we have over 100 companies already listed. It's the fastest growing market today in the Middle East. Our venture capital is the fastest growing in the region for sure, and probably one of the fastest in the world. We used to be about 10% of the Middle East venture capital. Today we're almost 50% of the Middle East in venture capital, and we've exceeded all surrounding countries with significant amount of VC capital being deployed. Many of our startups have started listing in Numo because of their fast growth and need for capital flows. So I think the interlink between the base economy in Saudi Arabia and the capital markets is getting stronger. I think one area that I would like to point out is, as great as we're doing on equity, one area where we could do more, and Jenny referred to it, is the debt capital market. Today, because our economy and our companies have been conditioned over the last many decades to get their credit from the banks by direct lending, syndicated loans, and the like. And they did not go to the bond market often enough. Today, our debt capital market is less than 4% of GDP. Globally, and for the G20 countries, it's more than 40. So we have a great potential to grow our debt capital market at least by a factor of 10, because our GDP, which is today over $1 trillion, is targeted to be 1.7 in the next decade. So that GDP will grow. Private sector participation will grow significantly from where it is today. And we want it to be fueled by the capital markets, including credit coming from issuances of bonds and sukuks, primarily in the Tadawul exchange.
And with that, the question of regulation comes up, Jenny. You've talked about Saudi regulators being among the most accessible. What more could be done to make the regulatory landscape even more appealing for FDI and positioning Riyadh as a leading international hub?
I want to just comment on one thing His Excellency said, which is just, I have to say, sort of early on when everybody, all these asset managers came, right? Everybody's looking, they're like, okay, PIF, SAMA, we can raise money here. And then the awakening happened, which is, wait a second, this is a great place to deploy money. So it's been an interesting sort of evolution that's happened, because you're always looking for great investment opportunities. And again, where you have growth, you have great investment opportunities. But it was like a shift in mindset. So, you know, I have found, Franklin Templeton has found, anytime we have asked to meet with a regulator on whatever topic, they are curious. They want to understand what other markets are doing. They want to understand, is there anything that they're doing that isn't effective to being able to, you know, really be a financial hub. And that's a good thing. That's not always the case in every country. And it's really important as you're trying to get comfort in making investments. And so, you know, like I said, there were a couple things which we've given feedback on. I mean, for example, we had to hire our team and the board of directors before we had the final approval. And I was like, wait a second, what if they don't give us approval? We're going to have this whole staff of people. You know, so there were just some little things, and the feedback was always appreciated and very open. So.
Incredible. Well, as innovation in the sector expands, I mean, the topic of talent comes up. And Your Excellency, I was wondering, how are you thinking about talent development, given that you have such a young population, and how expats factor into that?
Well, I'll start with the last part, because many people don't realize that Saudi Arabia, with a population of about 33 million, about a third of them, 11 million, if my memory serves me correctly, are expats. They are people that we consider friend and family living amongst us in Saudi Arabia, contributing to our economy. Many of them raised their families in Saudi Arabia. The financial sector in particular has been built over the last 40, 50 years in Saudi Arabia, with a great contribution of expatriates from Europe, from the US, from South Asia. Many institutions came and built the Saudi banks today that are leading in the Middle East and beyond, and many of them are global leaders in certain categories of their performance. But I think we're blessed also. We're blessed in Saudi Arabia with a young population, with a very highly educated population. Saudi Arabia in the 70s and 80s, with the wise leadership of the government kings of the past, and currently King Salman and Prince Mohammed bin Salman, has been focused on developing the talent of the kingdom, men and women. We had the scholarship program. We had tens of thousands of people in the 1970s and 80s that are today running many of these institutions, and many of them are in government. I am one of them, pleased that I have been given that privilege of the government supporting. But today, I think we're also blessed that we have tens of universities, public and private, and almost every university has a business program. Almost every company of significance, like the SABICs and the Aramcos, has an academy, and the banks, and that has academies, and host also global MBAs and specialized programs. We have the Financial Academy, which is one of the world's largest and has already graduated 70,000, 80,000 professionals in some of their specialized programs. You look at the banks today in Saudi Arabia, they don't have to localize their workforce, but they're about 95% Saudis. 40% of them are women. So Jenny talked about the global economy overall, doubling women participation in the workforce. So talent is abundant in Saudi Arabia, but the door is wide open for global talent to come. Institutions are welcome to bring their global leaders. We have a premium residency program that in 2 years have issued 8,000 premium residencies. A significant amount of them are not for investors or people of high net worth, but targeting professionals who want to come to Saudi Arabia and consider Saudi Arabia their long-term residence and raise their family and improve their career by accessing these continuous learning opportunities through the academic institutions and the professional development programs that are available in the ecosystem.
Amazing. And Jenny, how are you thinking about talent development?
Well, so one thing, and I have to give His Excellency credit for this, because we were at a Milken conference, and I had attended FII, and I had this passion. My personal passion is how do we get more women in the investment business, right? This is a problem globally. And one of the things they look at is that actually girls lose interest in the financial services in high school and college. So if you don't get them by then, chances are it's going to be really hard to attract them. And so I said to His Excellency, I'd really like to do like a women's event there in, I don't know, at the school, and I will get a panel of women or whatever. And you took it and ran with it with my team. And so we ended up at Princess Noor University. At the time, it was just a dinner. We had a great panel of female CEOs. And while I was there, some of the students came up, and they were, it's a women's university, so these were girls there, and they were like, how do we get an internship at Franklin Templeton? I'd love to get, what do we do? I'm an engineer. And at that point, I was like, this is a great opportunity to attract women, talented women into the industry. We should create a program. So we actually launched a program, and Misa was helpful but was with Princess Noor University, where for seniors, they do an 8-week course, which we developed through our academy, that by the end of it, they're actually pretty savvy from investors, right? And then we take a subset to be interns, and we're working with other organizations to take some of these women as interns with the hope that they want to stay in the industry. And we've just done our first class of 150. We're really excited. We've taken 4 interns. We think that it's the kind of program that you could actually take globally. So we're now talking to other markets about, hey, this is a great opportunity. Again, it serves all of us well to have more women in the financial services sector globally. So anyway, leading from Saudi.
Thank you for that. But I would say that it's not just in Princess Noor. Princess Noor is leading in terms of women because it's an all-women university, but every university in Saudi Arabia is co-ed. And it's not just in financial services, which of course is key to this discussion today, but I'm happy that you will find more women than men in tech. King Abdullah University of Science and Technology is our globally leading research university, and there are more women Saudis there than men. King Fahd University, which used to be all men, is now open, both undergraduate and graduate, to female, and as is typical, they are doing extremely well and outperforming their male colleagues in classes, and they're participating. I'm happy that the lead of financial sector in our ministry is with us here. Daniel Jarboa is one of them. She's a great leader, and we have many like her, not just in the ministry but across government.